Okay, so picture this. It's 2026, and a man who looks an awful lot like Jim Carrey walks on stage at the César Awards in Paris. It's a big deal. He hasn't been seen in public much, but almost instantly, the internet explodes with a wild theory. That man is not Jim Carrey. They're saying he's a clone, a body double, a total imposter. And just like that, one of the strangest internet rabbit holes you'll ever find, well, it opened right up. And the crazy thing is, Carrie has always been fascinated with this idea of identity, of the masks we all wear. This quote, it's almost like he's setting the stage for what's about to happen. A moment where his audience would take that idea and run with it, trying to, literally unmask him. I mean, think about it. He's in Paris to get a Lifetime Achievement Award, a huge honor, but nobody was talking about that. All anyone could talk about was his face. The word unrecognizable just started trending everywhere. Suddenly, this guy who's been a part of our lives for decades felt like a total stranger to millions of people. So it all boils down to this one question, right? Who was that man on stage? To figure this out, we're going to treat this like a real forensic investigation. We're going to look at all the evidence from both sides, and we'll start with the case for a clone. All right, let's dive into what the internet detectives found. They put together this whole list of, well, discrepancies. Little details that they were absolutely convinced proved this was not the Jim Carrey we all know. So here it is, the breakdown of their core arguments. People were making these side-by-side comparisons, and they zeroed in on four key things. But the two that really got everyone talking, his eye color and which hand he was using. I mean, those are things you can't just change, right? The eye color theory was absolutely massive. For the believers, this was the smoking gun. They're like, sure, plastic surgery can change a face, but it can't change the color of your eyes. People were going frame by frame through the footage, and this quote pretty much sums up the certainty they felt, no doubt in their minds. And then came Exhibit B. Everybody knows Jim Carrey is left-handed, but there were all these clips of him signing autographs in Paris with his right hand. To the theorists, this wasn't just some slip-up. It was a major biological tell. The muscle memory was just wrong. Okay, so that's the prosecution's case. Now let's pivot and look at the defense. What do the official records and the simple logistics of the event actually tell us? Right off the bat, the whole clone theory runs into a huge problem. It kind of relies on this idea that an imposter just stepped in, but the reality of how these events work directly contradicts that. This was not a spontaneous, last-minute thing at all. 8 months. That is how long the awards organizers were coordinating with Jim Carrey and his entire team. This was a massive, planned-out event. The idea of some imposter just showing up becomes pretty hard to believe when you know that. And the evidence piles up. He was there with people who know him better than anyone. His daughter, his grandson. He was with Michel Gondry, who directed him in Eternal Sunshine. But here's the kicker. The speech. He personally prepped and delivered his acceptance speech entirely in French. Could an imposter really do that? So just when it seems like the official story pretty much settles it, the whole thing takes another bizarre twist. A famous makeup artist comes forward and seems to take credit for the whole deception. And this just poured gasoline on the fire. Was this an actual confession? Was this all just some elaborate piece of performance art, or was there something else going on here? So, this artist, Alexis Stone, who is an absolute master of these kinds of transformations, makes this Instagram post. It shows a picture of Carrey at the awards next to a photo of this insanely realistic silicone mask. And for the conspiracy crowd, this was it. This was the how. This is how they pulled it off. But almost as fast as that post went viral, the actual pros started to weigh in. The people who make these kinds of prosthetics for movies. And their professional opinion was pretty much unanimous. What Alexis Stone was claiming was impossible. And their reasoning was devastatingly simple. Oscar-winning artists pointed out that the photo of the mask itself looked like it was generated by AI. The fake teeth were way too big to even fit in a human mouth, and they said a mask that complex just wouldn't hold up for hours under hot TV lights without falling apart or showing obvious seams. In their expert opinion, it was a very clever digital hoax. Of course, for people who already believed, the expert opinion didn't mean a thing. They didn't see Alexis Stone's post as a prank. Nope, they saw it as an officially sanctioned cover-up, a story planted to make the whole clone theory sound ridiculous and get everyone to stop talking about it. But to really understand why this theory got such a strong grip on people, you have to look beyond just the award show. The foundation for this was actually laid years earlier by Jim Carrey himself. See, starting around 2017, Carrey started giving these incredibly deep philosophical interviews. He talked about Jim Carrey as just another character he played, an avatar he created for the public. He was basically taking apart his own celebrity identity piece by piece right in front of us. You might remember that famous red carpet moment where he told a reporter, "There is no me." For him, this was all about a spiritual journey, about letting go of the ego. He was exploring really big ideas about consciousness and what it means to be a self. And this is the final piece of the puzzle. When that man at the César Awards looked different, the theorists didn't just see an actor who'd gotten older. They reached all the way back to these philosophical quotes, and they took them literally. They believed Carrey had been dropping clues, trying to tell everyone in code that he was gone, and a replacement was already here. And that leaves us right here, with this fascinating paradox. You have an artist who spent years telling the world his public identity was just a performance, and in response, the internet creates a story where his biological identity is, quite literally, an illusion. So, was this all a massive misunderstanding of his art? Or, in some strange way, is it the most bizarre, unexpected validation of his entire point? That's the question at the very heart of the Jim Carrey paradox.